Our previous videos demonstrated how to start the TMI program and log in, how to use the pending screen to select the claims you want to report to Transworld, how to fine-tune TMI settings to focus on the kinds of claims that you want to turn to collections, how to actually transmit those claims to Transworld, and how to check the status of transmitted claims. Now that you're up to speed on those day-to-day tasks, you're ready to learn about some of TMI's more advanced features. The Submitted screen, as you already know, is where you can view a list of claims that Transworld is actively working on for you. The status column at the far right side of the screen is where TMI shows its estimate of how many demand letters Transworld has sent for each claim based on a standard schedule. Claims that are marked demand are still being sent letters, and TMI has not detected any changes like payments in the status of those claims. Claims with the status of partial have had partial payments posted against them in Medical Manager. When TMI automatically retrieves data from your Medical Manager server, which normally happens every weeknight, it will detect changes like these partial payments. When changes occur to claims that you've already submitted to Transworld, details will be sent to Transworld each time you transmit, and the status of those claims will also be updated here on the Submitted screen. Normally, you won't need to do anything special to let Transworld know about payments on claims you've reported to them, because TMI finds the payments and automatically reports them to Transworld each time you transmit claims, which you should do at least weekly. But maybe you're running a little behind posting payments in Medical Manager, and you want Transworld to immediately stop sending demand letters to a patient who's paid off their claim. In that case, you can use the Resolved button here on the Submitted screen to manually tell Transworld to stop sending letters. Just select the claim that's been paid off by clicking it on the table at the bottom of the screen. Then click the Resolved button. TMI will display a list of reasons why claims are typically marked resolved. If the reason you want to use is shown on the list, click it, then click the Select button. If you need to add a new reason to the list, click the Add Reason button instead. Type the new reason into the text box at the bottom of the list, click the Confirm Add button, then click Select to select the reason you just added. If you just want to mark the claim as resolved without selecting a reason, click the Cancel button to close the list of reasons. Note that there's now a number 1 in the CHG or Change column. This is the code for canceling an account in Transworld. The next time you transmit a batch of claims to them, they'll receive your order to cancel the demand letters on this account. TMI also has a Suspend button that you can use to put Transworld's demand letters on hold for up to 60 days. If a patient promises to make payment on their account, you can select their claim here on the Submitted screen, click the Suspend button, and select a reason for suspending the account, just as we did for the Resolved account a minute ago. When you've marked an account as suspended, the number 2 will appear in the Change column. If you use the Suspend button to put accounts on hold with Transworld, you should regularly check these accounts on the Submitted screen. The number after the Suspend status shows how many days the account has been on hold. Here's one that we put on hold 2 days ago. Once an account has been suspended for 60 days, Transworld will consider the account to be service complete and won't send any more letters on it, even if there were 1 or more letters remaining in the 5-letter series when you put the account on hold. If the responsible party doesn't make payment as promised, you can manually reinstate the account by filling out a Transworld reinstatement form and faxing it to Transworld. After you fax the form to Transworld, you can select the account on the Submitted screen and click the Reinstate button. TMI will ask you to confirm that you've sent in the reinstatement form. If you have, click the Yes button, but only if you really have faxed in the form. When you use either the Resolved or Suspend buttons, you'll have to transmit a batch to Transworld for them to know about the new status of these claims. If you clicked the Resolved or Suspend button accidentally on a claim you didn't mean to mark Resolved or Suspend, just make sure that claim is selected on the table at the bottom of the Submitted screen and click the Undo button. In addition to the Resolved and Suspend buttons, there's also a Skip Mail button at the right side of the Submitted screen. You can use that button to tell TMI that Transworld's demand letters are being returned as undeliverable, and not to bother sending any more information on this claim to Transworld, since they can't do anything on claims for which there's not a valid mailing address. In fact, you'll probably find out from Transworld that the mailing address is bad, since undeliverable demand letters are returned to them, not you. When you use the Skip Mail button, TMI will put a letter H in the change column. When you use the Resolved, Suspend, or Skip Mail buttons to update the status of an account in TMI, the program will automatically add a memo to that claim. For example, if we click on this suspended claim, we can then click the View/Add Memo button to see the memo that TMI automatically recorded. TMI won't allow you to make changes to memos that appear in the top box of this pop-up window, the one labeled Current Memo, but if you like, you can type a new memo into the Add This Information box. Click the Add to Memo button to close the pop-up window and save your changes, or click Cancel if you just want to close the pop-up window. On claims that haven't had any memos added to them previously, either automatically by TMI or manually by someone using the TMI program, the name on this button will just be Add Memo, and you can click it to add whatever comments you like to the claim. Please note that any comments you add in TMI will only show up here in the TMI program. They're not sent back to Medical Manager. You may have noticed a pink History button showing up when we select some of the claims on the Submitted screen. The History button appears on accounts that have been reported to Transworld more than once. For example, if we click the History button on the green account, we see that it has been reported to Transworld twice, once for items that were insurance responsibility, and once for items that were patient responsibility. To close the pop-up History window, click the Complete button at the bottom right corner of the window. To exit from the Submitted screen, click the Complete button at the bottom right corner of the screen. Remember, if you marked any claims as resolved or suspended, you need to transmit a batch to Transworld to make them aware of the changes on those accounts. The TMI program includes several built-in reports. The Active Accounts report provides details on claims that Transworld is currently processing for you, that is, the accounts that appear on the Submitted screen. You can select either a detailed version of the report, which looks a lot like the transmittal report that TMI displays just before you send a batch to Transworld, or a summarized version that just briefly lists patient names, responsible parties, current balance and statuses, etc. By default, the report includes claims that have been reported to Transworld within the last 2 months, but you can change this by clicking on the down arrow button at the right side of a date field and selecting a new date from the pop-up calendar. The report normally includes all patient accounts, but if you want to run the report for a subset of patients based on their Medical Manager account numbers, enter the starting and ending account numbers here. To run the report for a subset of patients based on their last names, use the Account Names line. For example, to run the report just for patients whose last names start with the letter M, enter M in the From box and MZZ in the Through box. You can do the same thing with insurance carrier names. Just enter the starting letter in the From box and the ending letter followed by ZZ in the Through box. By default, the Active Accounts report is run for both insurance and patient due claims, and includes all statuses of claims. If you only want the report to include certain kinds of claims, such as patient due claims that have been suspended, just uncheck all the other checkboxes. You can sort the report based on patients' last names, transmittal numbers, which are based on patients' Medical Manager account numbers, SOCIAs, the date on which the claims were first reported to Transworld, insurance plan numbers, or insurance carrier names. If you've made any changes to the report settings and want to go back to the report's defaults, which includes all claims that were reported to Transworld in the last 2 months, just click the Restore Defaults button at the bottom of the screen. If you want the report to include patients' names and other details, make sure that the All button in the Show Pages section is selected. The last page of the report will include a summary of all the claims you've selected. If that last page summary is all you're interested in, select the Summary Only radio button. To actually run the report, we recommend clicking the Preview/Print button first to view the report on screen. If you click the Print button, the report will go straight to your default printer. Using the Preview Print button lets you see the report, and if you want, you can print it using the printer icon at the top left corner of the report. The All Accounts report is similar to the Active Accounts report, except that Active Accounts includes claims from the submitted screen, that is, claims that Transworld is actively working on for you, and the All Accounts report looks at claims that are listed on the historical screen. This includes everything from the submitted screen, plus older claims on which Transworld is no longer sending demand letters. By default, the All Accounts report includes claims that were reported to Transworld in the last 3 months, but you can change the from and through dates using the pop-up calendars. You can filter the report based on patients' medical manager account numbers or by insurance plan numbers, but by default, the report includes all patients and insurance companies. The report normally includes both insurance and self-pay claims, but you can uncheck the insurance responsibility or patient responsibility box if you're interested in only one type of claims. You can sort the report based on patient account numbers, transmittal numbers, the start date, which is when the account was turned to Transworld, insurance plan numbers, or the balances on the claims. If your practice has multiple doctors and you want the claims to be grouped by doctor, select the Primary Doctor-Based option. As with the Active Accounts report, you can click the Restore Defaults button at the bottom of the screen to undo any changes you made to the report settings. If you want the report to include individual patients' account numbers and balances, be sure that the All button is selected in the Show Pages section. The last page of the report will include a summary of the claims on the report. If the last page summary is all you want, select the Summary Only radio button before you run the report. After previewing the report, you can print it if you want to. As with the Active Accounts report, clicking the Print button will send the report straight to your default printer without first displaying it on screen for you. To exit from this screen without running the report, click the Cancel button at the bottom left corner of the screen. As we mentioned in previous videos, older claims that Transworld is no longer working on for you will eventually disappear from the submitted screen and show up only on the historical screen. The process of removing claims from the submitted screen to keep it from getting cluttered is called purging, and TMI does it automatically each time you transmit claims to Transworld. To view a report of older claims that are just about ready to be purged, click the Pre-Purge Report button. Here, TMI found 2 claims that are considered service complete. They received the full series of 5 demand letters, but TMI didn't find any payments on these claims. TMI will take care of the purging process for you automatically, but the Pre-Purge report can alert you to accounts that are seriously delinquent. If you don't take any action in Medical Manager on these accounts, they'll show up in TMI again, so long as they still meet your minimum age and balance requirements, so you may want to assign them to a Medical Manager status label that you've told TMI to ignore, like Account Referred to Collection Agency. The retrieval log is a list of the times that TMI has connected to your Medical Manager server to retrieve claim information. You may never need to run this report, but if you ever suspect that TMI is having problems connecting to your Medical Manager server, maybe because no new claim information has shown up in TMI for a while, you can run the retrieval log and jump to the last page of the report. Scroll down to the bottom of the report and make sure that the date and time of the last retrieval are recent. Retrievals normally run automatically each weeknight, and that there are no error messages. If you see any problems with the retrieval log, contact BusyNet Tech Support for assistance. The Transmission and Purge Reports option on the main menu lets you review old transmittal reports, the ones that TMI shows you just before you send a batch to Transworld. If you ever need to verify which claims were sent in a particular batch, click the Transmission and Purge Reports button, click the line corresponding to the batch you're interested in, then click the View Current Selection button at the top right corner of the screen. If you want to view items that were purged from the submitted screen and move to the historical screen, click the View Purge Reports button at the right side of the screen, select the date on which the items would have been purged, then click the View Current Selection button. To exit from this screen, click the Complete button at the bottom right corner of the screen. There are a few more items at the bottom left corner of the TMI main menu that we haven't discussed yet, but you probably won't need them. The Zip All Data button makes a copy of your TMI data and saves it in a compressed format known as a zip file for safekeeping. Since you should be backing up the hard drive of your TMI workstation on a regular basis, you probably won't need to worry about this. The Purge Accounts to History button could be used to manually move old claims from the submitted screen to the historical screen, but since TMI handles that for you automatically each time you send a batch to Transworld, you don't need to bother with this. If your practice uses the Access version of TMI, you may see an option here to Compress Database, but please don't click the Compress Database button, as it can actually cause problems with the TMI database. One other button you'll probably never need to click is the Resend Batches button. If you ever see that button flashing red, that means the last batch you tried to send to Transworld didn't go through for some reason, like a problem with your internet connection. If that ever happens, don't click the Resend Batches button. Just transmit a new batch of claims to Transworld as soon as your internet connection is working again. TMI will automatically send both the new batch and the batch that didn't go through on your previous try, and the Resend Batches button will go back to its normal color. We hope you found these TMI videos to be helpful and informative. If you have any questions or issues regarding TMI that weren't covered in these videos, please contact BusyNet Tech Support for further assistance.